And I think we're live. So welcome everyone to this new webinar from Softlanding.works on why to build a tech hub in Portugal. I would add why and how, I think. So my name is Pedro Moura. I'll be hosting this event for today. And with me I have the pleasure of having Mark Jacobi, an old known, and a former client also, which is always good, which we have the privilege of having him, not just because he's a great guy, as we will see, but also because he has first-hand experience in creating a tech hub in Portugal for one of the major companies in Portugal, in the world, let's say, Volkswagen. But more than me, Mark, I would like to ask you to present yourself to the audience so that they know a bit better about you and your work and your past also.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Softlanding, for inviting me for today. And hi to everybody out there in Europe and the rest of the world. I already saw we have as well some guests from other continents. So from my side as well, welcome. Yes, like Pedro already said, my last years I spent in Portugal until last year creating one of the tech hubs for Volkswagen Group in Portugal. So Volkswagen decided to do insourcing of IT and decided to go to Portugal, and we will get later on into why. By myself, I started as a starting and co-founder basically in the project as the Portuguese liaison. And then we moved on to that and built it up in 6 years, basically to be a recognized tech entity in the group already. Like for one entity, it's the IT center together with their home in Munich. And when I left last year, we were 600 something people strong already, and I know nowadays they're around 700 and already having offices in Lisbon and in Porto.
So you're, at least in Portugal, already one of the largest IT companies here. So
yeah,
that's good. But Mark, let's start from the beginning, because I think that there's always an history to tell behind all these things, and also a story. And it's a story I think that people are more interested in. What was the reason that Volkswagen decided, first of all, to create a tech hub, let's say not in Portugal but abroad? So what were the drivers behind this decision, let's say?
So the big decision for you was when they did an analysis that they basically realized there's not a lot of or not enough IT know-how within the company. Everything was based outsourced in other companies, third suppliers, and nowadays, as we all know, IT became more and more a key figure in the future of every type of business, and especially in the cars. So around 2015, that started all there was analysis, and then there was a decision to integrate more and more of key IT knowledge again in the company, to have that knowledge in house and to drive it forward on the speed they needed and for the parts. And they looked out in various countries, obviously, where could there be a good ground to create more. When they figured out in Germany it's not possible to have all the IT, not to grow, not to hire anymore, that they had to let go even on key projects and important stuff to go outside of Germany. They created tech hubs in India, but that was more mass coding, and they needed as well people to be creative, let's say it like that, to break ground, to do something different. And in their search of good places, they looked at Lisbon. As well, Lisbon got on the map on those times, obviously due to Web Summit and so on, and as well due to the promotion companies did, and everybody started to start up in Portugal.
Okay.
So they came down here, had a look at it. We presented what we can offer. I worked before at another Volkswagen company, so there was already a foothold here, which made it easier for them. And after a first look at, they said, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. Let's start with 300 people.
Okay.
And
So, but the first motivation, as far as I understood, was really a question of capacity, and in a certain sense, it was hampering the ability of Volkswagen to remain competitive in things related to IT, right?
yes.
So let's look somewhere. Then they tried I would say that between the 1990s and the 2000 and somethings, there was this wave of outsourcing of things to India and some other places, but things turned out not to work as good as everyone thought, but because the main driver, at least that was my experience, was merely cost. So there was this kind of a non-concern that should have existed regarding culture and communication, mostly, that then drove the results to not be so good. So let's turn to Europe. So let's turn to where? And Portugal was already in the radar because there was Volkswagen in Portugal. In terms of production, that was kind of the, let's say, the seed that was already here that then allowed for the consideration of Portugal firsthand to become a hub?
Yeah, it was a seed. They looked obviously as well in other countries where they are strong, like in
Yeah,
Spain, but as well in the
what
East.
was
But
the competition, let's say?
exactly, the Eastern countries, obviously, like what right away is next to Germany, Poland, and so on, Hungary, Czech Republic, and
But
they have
and
always.
Germany, sorry to interrupt you. Germany has quite a strong foothold on those countries because of the geographical proximity, right?
They do. They have plants there and everything, and those countries have one advantage. If you want to see it as an advantage, they very often speak German.
Yeah.
But
And culturally, they are more similar than, for example, between Portugal and Germany, or
you
I don't
know,
know,
I'm now
because sometimes
I'm a,
culture, it's good to have contrarian cultures. Sometimes it's
exactly.
good to have similar cultures. Well,
Pedro, I'm since 26 years now in Portugal. I'm originally German.
okay.
So I think actually the Portuguese and the German culture is a very good work together. And if you look at success stories in Portugal, not just IT, like other ones that are here way more years, that created strongholds in German companies that created strongholds in Portugal for production or for other type of services. It works very well together if you combine the strengths of the Germans and the strengths, for instance, of the Portuguese. But we see it as well with other multinationals that came over,
Yeah.
be it Americans or others, that the Portuguese can adapt quite well. I found it, the Portuguese have a quite open mentality, a quite open cultural mentality as well to accept other working styles. And they are good in as well taking the best out of other countries when they live it together. We always heard about productivity in Portugal, and Portugal is so way behind other countries. I don't I can't subscribe that from my personal experience in Portugal. The contrary, if the people are motivated and confident where they work and they identify themselves with a project, I found some of the best people I worked in during my working life, and I worked in various countries during my starting time. So I've done projects in event creations in more than 8 countries. And I mean, the Portuguese always amazed me. They as well shocked me with some things. Everybody knows some things of it, but in general, they amazed me when they really wanted to get something done, and when they got catched by the project, they roll up the sleeves and do everything possible for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
project.
You know, that's funny because I, as a Portuguese, I completely subscribe that. But the productivity thing in Portugal is very real and it has to do most. And it's my personal opinion, not soft landing, not whatever. It's my personal experience. The management culture and quality still lags a bit behind the regular talent capacity to really produce work in innovative ways, in
Yeah.
effortlessly sometimes to really get, sorry, but shit done, and shit done well, some things in a ways that were not devised in the beginning. Portuguese really do well in these multicultural environments, and where the work culture is good, the management culture
Yes.
is good. And I think that there has been a very positive influence from companies like Volkswagen coming to Portugal to create tech hubs in the last, I would say, 10 years, in a sense of influencing also in bringing positive things to not only to Portugal, let's say, but also to the Portuguese companies in the sense of learning new things, new ways of doing things, of being professionally, at least in the IT world. I have seen it firsthand, and I think that it's a very good win-win situation. But
Pedro, just one
yeah,
point on that. I think what you can see is the old way of Portuguese doing things is the boss decides. And what I figured, the Portuguese are eager to get involved. And when you give them responsibility, but
yeah.
as well accountability, they thrive. They really get over their head into the project, and they want to participate. What they don't like, what I figured, especially in IT, they don't like the routine. They like to be challenged. And if they have a word to say in that challenge, even better. They will come out with a really good result normally.
But sometimes it's also part of the Portuguese culture. They resign to routine. So my first piece of advice for companies looking to Portugal is, if you are a routine, boring company coming to put people just pressing keys day after day after day just for that, better go somewhere else, because people here are probably better used for other things. But
Yeah.
getting a bit back, Mark, to one thing that we were talking, competition. Why Portugal when there is Eastern countries, when there is Spain, when there is, well, other places? Was there any kind of benchmark when the decision was
Yes.
made to create a tech hub abroad? What was the process? What were the criteria? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, they obviously had a list they wanted to check to
You
see
are German, right? You need to have a list, right?
exactly. So there were some committees and they looked at the various countries. They went and looked there, but I think Portugal blow them basically away. And as for what we presented with them, it's first of all the strategic location, geographical proximity for a German company. I can speak more, but I see it as well for other countries. Especially Lisbon is very well connected in Europe, but as well nowadays to South America and North America for flights to coming in and out. And with Germany, you can sometimes fly in the morning and you fly back in
Yeah,
the evening. Um, what I think was a main driver, and definitely what they figured out quite quickly, was the amazing quantity of skilled workers, the tech quality and knowledge the people presented, but on the other side, the open mind those techies brought. So they are not, sorry, if somebody is not German in here, in German we have a word, it calls Fachidiot. It means a little bit, somebody knows, for instance, just SAP and just works in SAP. Now, what they found in the early times here when they looked at the people is the people come from the university and are normally, they know how to program. And then they know how to program normally in more than one language. And if you throw on them the challenge to learn another language, they open to it and do it. So you can't just hire them and put them in one way. If they see another project they're interested, it's another programming language, they teach themselves and get
yeah.
used of it and make themselves available for that.
Well,
And
Mark,
another,
I'm one of those cases. I'm also, I don't know if good or bad, but I'm a computer science engineer, and it was precisely that. I left college. I can tell you, I went to work in business intelligence. I knew almost nothing about SQL. It was kind of a shame, but I spent that course in the university, basically going to parties or something else. So I just did it. But then when I needed to learn it, it was very quick. It was just
yeah.
snap. And I'm doing BR reports, data warehouses, etc., in that school. And if anything new arises, yeah, we can go for that. I can attest to that fact.
But I think the last the one of the kickstones obviously to come. We all know why companies very often looks outside, especially from Germany. Volkswagen look to reduce costs.
Yeah,
But one point I made very clear since the beginning when they wanted to come. I said, guys, don't come because of the costs. We are not, and at that time we were still cheaper. Okay, but it's
yeah, it
always seen
was
Portugal as a cheap country. It's a wrong saying. So I always said, don't come for the money because the prices go up, the cost of IT go up. And Pedro, you're in it since a while. You know that at that time we had increases of salaries between 5 and 15% every
15
every
Mark. Since
and more
2020, it was 40%. I
every
can
year,
tell you that.
every
And that's
like
the
every year
report that we
salary.
do every. No,
Yeah.
let's say compounded from 2020 till now, the average would be something around 40%. So
So
it's a
for,
lot.
for somebody who is familiar with Volkswagen Germany, to talking more than a salary increase annually over 2% makes like a problem. So we prepared them
Yeah.
from the beginning. But nevertheless, even today, I think Portugal for IT specific and engineering is where cost effective, because yes, you pay already more. It's not so cheap anymore like it has been like 8 years ago. They are not as cheap like if you go to India or something like this, but the price you pay
The
for the
output.
quality you get, it's for me probably still one of the most cost efficient and effective country where you can hire, especially in IT and engineering, from the countries that I know.
But that's very interesting, Mark, because again, and I'm not going to try to make a twist here. In your opinion, that's it. So good cost effectiveness, the cost is not so low as it was, but the productivity, the output, it's good and it compensates. How do you see that reflected, or is that recognized by, for example, Volkswagen headquarters in the sense of keeping the investment and doubling down here? Because in the end, what counts is the what you do, not what you think or say, right?
Yeah. Pedro, definitely I can say this. We first had to break ground, obviously, and prove ourselves
Of course.
valid. But before we reached the 300 effectively in beginning, we already worked on going to 500, 600. Now they're at 700. They're already supposed to go over 1,000 employees in the future. And I always said since the beginning, guys, why in a big company, okay? We as well probably have people in here that looking at smaller companies. It's as well perfect fine to have office for 30, 50 people. But to think about scaling, it was very soon proven that the quality quality justifies the money, and it's still, sorry, way much cheaper than hiring subcontracting in Germany, because in Germany, eventually for the price you pay here for an expert or a senior, in Germany from a consulting company, if you're lucky, you get somebody above junior in a lot of cases. And if I compared in meetings we had, the feedback we got, we said, okay, we sent you a senior, he will take care of it from our side. The feedback we got, guys, a type like this person in our company, he's like expert or way above. So they really presented really good quality. And if you then look at the price tag that it had, which is always an important factor for each company that goes somewhere, it's worth it because you get output. And I think there has to be a shift sometimes in IT and other business. We have to talk more about the output and the outcome than about the investment. And I'm totally open, and we always said to Germany at that time, guys, measure us on the output we have.
Not
We are
just
not
on the input,
afraid
yeah.
of making sprints and deliver at the end of the week, or in 1 month sprints or 2 month sprints or 3 month sprint. Whatever you work on, challenge us. We will get with you together and challenge us on the output. Not obviously they always came, guys, you want to increase 15%? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we needed more money, yes, but we could do due to the scaling keep the effect for Germany pretty much low. But sometimes when the market was really strong changing and we wanted to keep the play and keep the growth, one of the things to grow quickly in Portugal is to pay eventually a little bit above the market and have very competitive salaries. But it's not about just
Yeah.
salaries for the Portuguese, it's about
And,
the package.
and there is always another thing that I mentioned a while ago. And I think in my experience, it's something which is critical. It's things like communication and work culture. How do
Yeah,
things go around? Not just in terms of Portugal by itself, but in comparison to and taking into account your experience with other countries in Europe and outside Europe, how would you say that the Portuguese are? Because we're talking about the why creating a tech hub in Portugal, and I would say that the first thing that whenever I meet someone that I'm aware of or I try to understand, it's if there is personality match, if I can communicate with that person, because especially in IT, language is always a problem because business speaking with IT developers, it's usually something that leaves some minds in the middle, some gaps in the middle. But language and communication it's a big deal. How would you say that Portuguese compares, and not I'm not saying good or bad, but in terms of qualitatively compared to other competitors? I'm saying competitors in a good
yeah.
sense, of course.
So from the communication barrier, English, it's easy. So we every Portuguese that joins, which brings it down already. You can talk English in the IT companies in Portugal. Basically, the office language is English. Communication is English. Some people come in with a little bit rusty English after 2 months in a company when they have some basics. They are fine because they speak English all the time. So what was important is to create family ambient. Like obviously the Portuguese from the past is used of being taught what he has to do. You can still do that nowadays, but you will lose the big talents and you will lose a lot of people because the newer generations, and especially the IT, they like to get involved. They like to be asked. So when we did changes at the company where I was, we spent very often a lot of time of iterating before we wanted to change something. When we were very small, everybody was involved. Basically, do we paint this room yellow or red? Then obviously you
Nice.
grow, you can't do that. And that was the first big stall that we had in the company. So because you had to change from a small company to a medium-sized company. And that means you need to have more hierarchies, you have to more, and you have to have more communication because you cannot have a town hall every day or morning stand up with everybody
It
if you
also needs to
reach.
work, right?
Exactly, and we went 3 different locations, and each location then had close to 100 people. Then it doesn't work. So we invested a lot of in communication. And one thing we said from the beginning, because that some people forget it, IT is all about people. And that is one of the cornerstones for me that we always had in the company. And people, it means you have to pick them up, you have to take them with you. So rather spend another week in the beginning talking with the key personnel in your company and the key stakeholders, that as well then talk with the rest of the people if you want to change something and get their feedback, get them involved in it, and that makes the rollout easier. It's very it sometimes doesn't make the rollout that fast. But what we experience, it's very often better to spend another half a month more to get the right people on board and then roll it out in a month and have it implemented in the company and more or less it's working. Then you decided in a board meeting, yes, we do that. You do it tomorrow, you implement it in a week, and then you fight it for 6 months.
Yeah, that
So
brings me to a joke that I usually use to tell in landing jobs. It's the sister company of Softlanding recruitment agency, let's say, a specialized one, which was I. Please understand this in a funny way. I always thought that it's very difficult for a German recruiter to hire a Portuguese tech talent because sometimes things are so out of translation in some cases that probably what drives a German IT talent or a Portuguese IT talent, it's the same in the end, but the way that they communicate, the way that they understand and perceive reality and each other, it's different.
yeah,
But the question here was when you now starting to pass to the how instead of the why, because regarding the why, I think you already talked. We already talked a lot about it, but we'll go on to some other topics. But now a bit of the how. What was the strategy when you came to Portugal regarding the you were the liaison with the German HQ? Was that on purpose to have someone from the mother house? Then the teams in Portugal, they had a lot of people from Germany, for example, or were they mostly built around Portuguese managers? The recruitment part, for example, and all this. So how did you build this puzzle, let's
okay.
say, especially in the beginning, because it's where things are more unknown, right?
Okay, I
And
will
your
try to make
experience, I think, will be amazing for people considering doing more or less the same path.
it short because I could talk hours of that because we started
Yeah.
with 3 tech units and all 3 tech units were completely different. So we basically had 3 different companies. One was
Answering to,
was
to three different clients, I imagine.
Exactly. So one
Okay.
client was total us. We're doing everything, and they just said, "This is a job. Do it. Who you hire, what you do whatever you want." So it was like we were like a provider, a service provider. Okay. Then we had another one where they wanted to be really involved because they did pair programming. So what we did in the other 2 tech units is we always brought over somebody from the headquarters or from the project who was known in Germany and was trusted in Germany. So this helped. The idea of Volkswagen was get down to Portugal and do it as cost efficient as possible, programming and development. We don't want to have to deal with all the thing around the company. So that part was in the beginning basically outsourced, and we founded even the company as business units in an existing Volkswagen company, and then we carved it out, and we continued in the startup phase to use the services from an existing service company, not to waste money and as well capacities on stuff, let's say it where the ITs perhaps are not so much involved, and we basically gave them a bubble. We brought over, like I said, from Germany, the heads of operations, you called them. We called them engineering managers to basically bring the projects and recruiting the first people. In the recruiting process, we as well had different. So we did recruitment. We first of all went a lot into the IT environment in Portugal. So our people that came over first said, give me 2-3 months to get use of Portugal, get to know it. To know where I find IT, where they want to be, and be in some meetups. So we did some meetups with our early
Yeah.
partners,
Entering the ecosystem, yeah.
like Softlanding companies and so on, to introduce us, present our project, to create a buzz, to create a branding. Because some people that were involved in the project said, let's pick 1 million and do outdoors. And we said, guys, with outdoors in Portugal, you don't hire IT. So we decided quite early, let's do it like type of guerrilla style. You have to be
That
in
would have been
LinkedIn.
amazing, Mark. Come on. You had
Yeah,
1 million to spend in outdoors for Volkswagen Diesel
exactly.
Service.
Exactly, and nobody knows. Okay, Volkswagen is a name. Okay, that already pushed right away
Yeah.
CVs when we went to the market, obviously, and caught attention. But we did a lot of meetups. We presented the projects, and here it's important, definitely, if you want to get into the market, to have like one lightning project, one project that really catches attention, where people can see, okay, this company means business and is really for serious here in Portugal, because then you attract the good people that want to be challenged, and they bring with them the other ones. Portugal is a very small market, so But back
Word
to the
of mouth
hiring.
works a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so especially in the beginning, the first team has to fit. If the first team doesn't fit, you're basically dead in headquarters normally, especially in a big company. So we involved in the first recruitment of the seed teams, we involved the project managers or the project owners from Germany. So we had two different types. In one project, we flew the candidates from Portugal to Germany, and Germany wanted to see them one day in the office there, and they paid for everything. In another project, we set up speed datings basically. So we marked a full day with candidates or 2 days, 3 days in a row, and we brought the main project responsible, so not recruiters, the project people from Germany over to sit in this interview
Talks to candidates, yeah.
to the candidates. And then there came the next important part. We right away gave feedback the same day or after the speed dating sessions of 3 days personally to each candidate. And that was a very interesting factor. Even people we said, like for instance, Pedro, sorry, we really like you, but you lacked a little bit on the technical skill what we use at the moment. I think if you work on this and that in 1 year, please, you could be a great candidate or in the next phase of our company. We did that a lot. And guess what? We got new recruits over this way of doing things, of being open, because that was not common in the Portuguese market. Portugal,
It
it's very often
was,
common. You
it
send a
isn't
CV.
still.
It still isn't. Some companies picked it up, do it already. So we from the beginning, like I said, we said it's a people company. So we invest. So we try to invest really hard in recruiting teams that personally tell everybody you're not recruited, not just an email standard saying sorry you're out, and giving them a feedback very often as well, why and how the interviews worked and on what they could work to come back later. And that brought us referrals from higher qualified people for free, basically, because
Uh,
they talked with
no, no,
friends and
it's
families.
good. It's good employer branding because in the end, it's a long run. It's a marathon, right? It's not just hire the
Exactly.
best ones right now because those that are as quick, they'll probably will also leave more quickly than the rest.
Exactly. And
So, yeah,
last but
please.
not least, what we said, and that was a fight with Germany. You know, Volkswagen works a little bit in waves. When everything is good, everything is good. When something goes bad, everything is bad. So, one thing we tried, and what I always force it's important to have a stable voice on the market. So stable and continuously look for some candidates. If you go in, I are looking for 30 people, and then you disappear for half a year from the market. After half a year, you have to do all the investment in your brand again. So
Yeah,
it's better to have a continuous, slower grow and always recruiting people on the way, instead of going in, filling the 50 positions a company wants, and then you're dead for 1 year in the market. Because then when you will need the first replacements, or you want to start again recruiting for a new project, you have to invest way more. You have to put all your processes going again. Your people have to be trained again on recruitment, and you have to create again a buzz in the market that you're actually recruiting. So it's better to have a continuous flow and
constant
continuous
flow.
investment
Yeah.
in presence. Yeah.
No, it makes all everything you said makes all sense. But one thing in particular, the liaison between the HQ and you, I'm curious to know how those cases of in the beginning of people that needed to go to Germany and then come back, because I would assume that back then you didn't have full autonomy to hire here. So something that probably later on, after you proved yourself, maybe I believe it should have been possible. But how did those processes go? Did Portuguese people went there and did things
Yes.
went all right, or
So in the company where we hired, that was as well pair programming, difficult to recruit and very slow in the beginning. They were recruited. They liked a lot the ambient because everything was different. It was a very open office, pair programming. You do everything in pairs. You had breakfast together, so very family. And when they were recruited, we sent them, in that specific case, 5 months to Germany to be trained, the C
okay,
team. When the C team came back, so we put a lot of effort on that C team. When they came back, then some people still went to Germany, but very quickly after a year, we started to do the onboarding by ourselves because Germany wanted to guarantee people get this pair programming process, or when the process are a little bit more complex, that they really get the DNA of the company. And but our people were so well trained as well by the colleagues that the colleagues in Germany said, do it by yourself. And
okay,
in the other tech unit where we had the people coming over, that as well was the first year. And when we had the first seniors in place in the projects, they've been a couple times to Germany. So when we onboarded in that tech unit, we always sent the people 3 days, 1 week to Germany to get to know their peers in Germany, have a beer together. That makes part of it, break a little bit the ice, and the people could talk tech. and as well that the colleagues in Germany could understand. You have somebody on their side of the table that knows what he's doing. We just have to do it in English. It cannot be in
Yeah.
Bavarian or German, and that helped a lot in the beginning. I think in the beginning that is worthwhile investment. Obviously, depends what the company intends. If they just want to have a nearshore, it's different. But if they want to
Yes.
have an integrated IT, uh, Germany or States or wherever, together with Portugal, I think an exchange is important, and not just a video exchange. It makes a difference if people can smell each other or touch each other and have a dinner or lunch together, and
Yeah, that's
break
true.
this ice to actually have as well the personal phone number and call the people and perhaps do something fun out of the office.
Yeah, I'm personally very much more fond of having teams that are in some way integrated with the HQ or whatever than just regular pure out near shore outsourcing teams. But that's me. One thing which is important. So Volkswagen DS right now, DS is digital solutions, by the way, for the ones that
Yeah.
didn't cut it. How many people they got now? 700.
I think now they are already over 700, the last
Okay.
information I had, yes.
Number of nationalities. I'm asking this because, and here's the context, because Portugal is more and more not just a place where you have Portuguese tech talent,
Yes.
but also a place where people that work in tech start coming to live and to work and to be around because of, well, a lot of situations, qualities that the country might have. But how many nationalities do you Volkswagen DS right now, as far as you know?
So you touched really an important point for me. I love to work in international teams. They bring so much to the table. And it was as well an effort we did from the beginning. Be a Portuguese company in Portugal with Portuguese, but with international flair.
Yeah,
So 3/4 of the people were when I left still Portuguese, but we had a total of over 32 nationalities. And we're
32.
talking, yeah, we're
Okay,
talking obviously a lot of colleagues from Brazil to the
yes.
language. They coming a lot over here at that
There's
time
a
as well
connection.
with the tax benefits. It was very easy. Now it starts to be again since the government started again some tax benefits. But I think the soft landing is planning on doing an event about that
About
specific
that,
in the
yeah.
next times, because that would today be too much. But we had people from England, from the States, from Canada. We had people from Germany locating over here. Also, the salaries are different because of the type of living, the type of steel, as well the taxes they could sometimes arrange for themselves at that times. But as well, we had people from Egypt, from Iran, from Iraq. So really,
Lots of
uh,
that.
the whole world basically. Okay, just 32 countries, but we had the continents represented
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in there. And I think, especially for multinationals for companies that produce products for the world, having international teams working on the projects, it's the cheapest investment they can have. Because
It's a value in itself,
I
right?
mean, I'm German, okay? If you put five Germans together, they talk about the German market, they think about the German market, and Volkswagen did
Yeah,
this arrow had a lot of times. The German engineer wants it like this, so it has to be like this. And then they are strange, it doesn't sell. So if you want to go to multinational markets, let multinational teams work on it. Woman, man, black, white, it doesn't matter. Religious, transgender, whatever. I
that's
mean,
where
from
diversity really pays, right? It's when you
because
are doing things.
yeah, because diversity makes your product as well better. Because they look at it from all different user groups afterwards. Because perhaps the German likes this button on the top right, but the rest of the world likes it on the top left in green and
Yeah,
not in red. So you have to find a common sense, or you have to obviously adapt it country wise. But your basic project can already be way more world open. Instead
yeah.
of when you just put one nationalities, just white men in the 40s doing a project. Probably you don't have a lot of creativity on that. You need some other people that basically break the stereotypes.
Yeah, no, I'm going to use this chance for a question that has been put on the chat, which is from Jan Maurer. How does digital nomad visa influence the attractiveness of Portugal for global tech talents? I I I would ask you your comment on this, but I'll also ask your comment on the perspective of a tech hub, because obviously digital nomad can come and work from here to
Yeah.
anywhere in the world. But in the sense of you being a person that runs a tech hub, let's say, how do you see this digital nomad visa that and the other things that Portugal has to attract foreign talent to work here?
So we very quickly realized that certain positions and sometimes knowledges are scarce in Portugal. But especially in Brazil, you have a lot of them. So we did a lot of recruitment in that area and international as well. And we created internally basically a relocation program because we were not a company believing in remote. Also, what we did, especially during COVID times, we like for instance, we grew 50% during COVID times, and a lot of people were outside of the country. So at that time, everybody worked remote, and we had people in Brazil working with the teams here on the time. Obviously, the tech visa helped a lot because the people got tax benefits for the first years, which helped them to have a okay net income then to establish their living in Portugal. Without the tech visas and the benefits, for some people it was difficult. Others, they did it for the experience because for me, for instance, Portugal is probably one of the most welcoming and nice places to live for that we have here. Good weather, good food, nice people. And especially younger people sometimes want to try something else for a couple of years, and they came down and accepted that they perhaps earn as well less than they perhaps would be in UK or in Germany or wherever, but as well talent from other countries out of the richer countries where you already have a high
Yeah.
salary are attracted by that because, like I said, Portugal nowadays is an international hub. Lisbon itself and Porto is getting there is a very vibrant international town where you get around with English nowadays. I mean, I arrived 26 years ago and it was difficult,
Yeah.
but
Nowadays,
it worked.
in some places, you hear more English than Portuguese.
In some places you can't order in Portuguese anymore your food.
Yeah.
So so it's getting and it has a very vibrant tech scene. So people with tech, they have a lot of events, get together, meetings, and some companies as well do that in-house meetings to create like a family atmosphere in the company. And especially, and that was something I as well fostered at the company, is let's do meetups because a lot of those people do not have family in Portugal.
Yeah.
So they need a place, and let's give them the chance to get together in the office, make space for it, create opportunities that they get to know each other, that they link up. The Portuguese, then they were I was very impressed by them. They organized trips to the beach with the new colleagues, going surfing with them, introducing them to the Portuguese culture of food and other things. So. And it worked very well, and the people felt very welcomed.
I'm going to grab that point about the office to ask you, how was the policy, and you have passed COVID, right? So all these tectonic changes that occurred in the ways of work, how do you have you balanced in a way the thing about the office, then the remote work, then the hybrid work, then before COVID, during COVID, after COVID? But one thing, Mark, I'm going to ask you because we have still a lot of things to cover, and this is so great conversation that time is flying by. Let's try to be a bit more
Yeah.
synthetic here. So I'm asking you to be a bit German. Cool?
Okay, good. Flexibility and give the decision to the people. If you
Yeah.
order them, come back to the office, you have a problem. They like to decide, make the office attractive, that there's a reason to come. And then, funny wise, the people like to come to the office because most people in their home do not really have conditions to make home office a qualitative home office. Places are small. There's no extra room, like very often in Germany, to create an office. So you sit in your dining room and you do it. So if you have an office which doesn't need to be blowing away people like top floor or something like this, but have fun
Yeah.
and put good atmosphere in the office with fun things to do, then people will come to the office, and they choose to come to the office. You don't have to oblige them.
So you're a volunteer hybrid working, let's say, guy. Okay. And regarding another thing, but also regarding the office. So company opens a tech hub somewhere, not just in Portugal. They think, oh, I'm going to hire, I don't know how many dozens or hundreds of persons, and I need to have this office. And some companies go for a huge office from the beginning. Some start by saying, what's your experience in this? What would be your tips here for other companies considering moving to Portugal to create a tech hub?
Let's pray. If a company decides in the long run and goes all in for Portugal and wants to do something right away, I still would consider don't get right away a huge office. Get your C team in here and let them take care of it afterwards to choose locations and so on. But then you can right away go for a bigger one. For a company that knows I first will create 30 people there or a team of 50 or something like this, I honestly don't believe it's right away worth to go out and find a known office, because leases are normally for 5 years minimum. So go first in a co-working space or one of these startup centers that are all over Lisbon nowadays. Like we are here nowadays today in one of them, which is beautiful with a lot of space, to get your C team started. That they get used, if you especially bring colleagues from home in, that they can get used of the city, smell it, and see themselves and talk with the first seat teams. Where do we want to set up the office? Obviously, this all has to come in balance with what's the budget and
Yeah,
so
of
on.
course.
I agree, but in general, you hear a lot of Portuguese tech companies that went outside of the main city. They're having problems sometimes with people leaving. So techies like to be around areas where they can have a coffee, where there's food around, where they can go to a pharmacy, and where they can do their personal stuff as well close to the office. If you put them in a desert, they don't like it.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I completely agree. And I was asking because again, I have seen some cases of companies that come and they are an office for 300 people, and then things don't go so well, and after some years they still have only 50. I've seen those cases, and some others that come, they have a room for 5, 10 people, and 6 years after they already have 30. So
Yeah.
we have all the cases, and again, I also think that this also has to do a lot with the way, with not the way, but with the type of companies. I would say that larger
Right.
companies, more bureaucratic companies, they tend to go and to move in bursts of quantity, just big things. And that takes
But
me
they
to
are
know,
then as well, sorry, Pedro, but they are
yeah,
as well the first ones to have then the problem if they don't right away have the 200 people in
yeah,
the time frame they wanted, where the mother house says budget. You're spending a hell
yeah,
lot of money of empty space. So even and we started in two different co-working spaces until we had the first people in MAN. Even we had the first 30, 40 people in the co-working space. Just then we looked for an office when we know we go
okay.
up for 100.
So
But then
30,
we had
40.
100. We were supposed to go up to 150, and we had to find another place. So we changed 3 times offices in 4 years, which is a hell lot of capex to invest, and you throw it away. So I think it's important to you can start every time in a co-working space, and I think it's the best to have your C team every day together and to align strategies and get starting from there until, because recruitment still takes 2 or 3 months until you hire the first people getting the
Always, yeah.
projects on, right? So it gives you a little bit time, and even the first projects you can do from a co-working space, and then you go out and after the first proof of concept, let's call it like this, you have probably as well more security from the shareholders where you're supposed to go, and that gives you the first leverage to say, I will grow until that. Let's find a space, because I mean, if you know you're 30, you're supposed to 100, and eventually go to 200, you right away invest in an office for 200 people. I mean, if the company is really committed to it, great. Because but everybody needs to be sure it's a very big investment which will
Yeah.
stay half empty for pretty much a year or more, and
Yeah.
that needs to
So
be very clear, because otherwise you will right away a couple months down the road you will face the pressure that nobody wants, that wants to focus on building something up quick and with good quality. You're always just talking about money and return.
I'm a large adepт of reducing a bit the risk in the beginning of doing this proof of concept, like you said, even if it's just 6 months, because sometimes the persons that we might be sending might not be the right ones, the ones that we are hiring for the core team might not be the right ones, the partners, the local partners that we are engaging with might not be the right ones, and things might not start as smoothly and as well as expected in the beginning. They might not be a failure in the end, but there might be a need to do some changes. And if you're already stuck to a big sunken cost,
Yeah.
sometimes it can put in jeopardy, let's say, the whole project. And that brings me to another question, which I don't think applies in any time to Volkswagen, but it's something that I see a lot. In some cases, companies that are creating tech hubs in Portugal, they are not starting by incorporating a local company. They are starting by just using services like professional employer services or employer of record, and hiring people through those services, having everything taken care of, the taxes, the administrative thing, but not having a company that they need to mind about until they reach a certain threshold,
Hmm.
whatever that threshold, if it's 10 people, if it's 20, 30, I don't know, it depends on the case. But only then, if it reaches a certain critical level, they then incorporate, they then get an office. So it's an even more risk averse, let's say,
Yep.
approach than what we were talking about. Do you see this as a potential advantage for some company which, let's say, might have less money than Volkswagen? I don't know if I should say this, but that where money costs more, even though things change, obviously. But do you
Uh,
think that might be a sensible approach to a venture like this one of creating a tech hub in a foreign country?
Pedro, I definitely think it's a very valid option for medium and small sized companies, because it takes away all the headache you have to create first,
Yeah,
for legal respects
taxes,
in Portugal, Texas,
government.
HR. HR is a headache with all the different laws and regulations, and you don't have to invest heavily into those people, because normally what you have as a problem is you right away start with a team. You have one HR person doing payroll. If that person is sick on holiday, you have a problem. If you go with a company like this until you have a certain size that justifies internalizing slowly the important functions you see you will need, it helps you completely to focus on what is essential for you, the output
Yeah,
of good coding or parts. What can help have somebody in the team, obviously, that manages the suppliers and supervises them locally, because the laws are different, and the being is different in Portugal. So you need to get a taste of it to take full advantage of it as well. But for a small company or somebody who just wants to make a proof of concept first, because he needs it in a lot of companies, totally valid point, and I would probably suggest it even to a lot of companies to go for that, to
yeah,
see it fits for them, because creating a tech hub, it's always a huge investment. It's a huge step going out of your own culture, from your own country, and that gives you the opportunity to make it by proving the output. Try it with a good
first. Yeah.
project, not the one that nobody could solve the last 10 years. No, a project that could solve, but that could make an impact, because that helps you open the doors to your management and your decision makers to say, guys, we had this project in this time, quality is good, let's invest in that.
Okay, cool. Mark, one last topic that we had before going the others questions, which is, and it's also a bit related to this, but not so much in the starting phase, but more, I would say, in the growing phase. How do you see in Portugal the usage of staffing and outsourcing versus just hiring people internally for internal employees? And when I say staffing and outsourcing, is with the possibility, obviously, of later on internalizing the person as a way of growing, scaling fast. Because a lot of people ask us that,
Yeah. Pedro, it was a topic I brought up in the company quite early. And Germany said, no way, you are our last, we already outsourced you, so you don't outsource anymore. But but
That's
it got
great.
to a yes, but it got to a point, because then they said we can do it right away. And we said, guys, after recruitment is sometimes easier, sometimes more difficult. Where it got difficult, we went to the project again, and we made a proposal that let us use for certain topics where we are not in the market that known, like for instance when AI came new, or certain technologies we are not known, we don't have the foot now in, let us please use these outsourcing companies, and we make an agreement with them that they get us the people, and after 1 year we can hire them. uh, we finally got them to accept it. We make a proof of concept, and it worked perfectly, because you get very quickly people. There are a lot of companies that do that in Portugal. Strangely, they can give you great people in 1 week, when you will use when you probably have to look for them 2, 3, or 4 months in the market, and even then it's difficult to convince them. So you get them from the companies, and then you have 1 year to convince them that to join your club, basically. So, and if they like the job, obviously it's sometimes a little bit complicated with the perks you have in the company if they don't have them, to really integrate them, if you don't want to take a legal risk, because the
Yes,
legal risk is, if you treat them as your employee, if something goes wrong, you have to hire them. Well, we normally said we want to hire that guy anyway after a year, so we don't care if he tomorrow sues us to come to our company, because if the outsourcer made something wrong, I don't care. I want this guy anyway. I just am allowed with my contract with the outsourcer to hire him after 1 year.
yeah,
Normally, I wanted to hire the guys after half a year, but I wasn't able. And that was a great way to fill gaps. In our company by itself, we preferred recruitment by ourselves, because we invested in
of
medium to
course.
long-term projects, not short-term projects. If you have as well sometimes a short-term project thrown on you, but that will run for half a year, 9 months to solve a problem, and you don't see capacity for these people in the future, in your company, come on, it's logical. It's much better to go with an outsourcing company, use that for 9 months, and then you are able
Yeah,
the word is hard to get rid of
you,
the people, but
you
in
know,
Portugal it's easy. You can get rid of the people quite easy, and you move on to the next step. So
yeah,
I think it's total valid point.
sometimes I started calling, especially after COVID, outsourcing and staffing for some companies, slow recruiting. Because in a way, you have obviously the immediate power, effort available
Yeah,
in terms of work, but at the same time, you and the person, you are measuring each other along more time than just a regular recruitment process. And that
you have a
helps a
prolonged
lot.
test phase. You have a
Exactly.
prolonged
It's
test
slow
phase of a
recruitment.
year and
It's slow
instead of six
recruitment.
months. Yeah,
But
yeah,
the thing is that again, in terms of a growth phase when you need to grow quickly, probably the regular recruitment process will not give you everything that you need. One thing that which is very interesting is that to do that outsourcing, you needed to basically interact and get on with local partners. And my
yeah,
next question, and this is really the last one, would have to do with again, we're talking about HR and tax and all those things that were not necessarily directly related to IT talents, let's say, it's kind of on the side. But when you talk about things like, for example, getting people, international people, getting people to come to Portugal, who take cares of the visas? Did you have those services? Who take cares of, I don't know, advising the talent regarding the incentives or the conditions or whatever? So did you use local partners? Did you internalize all these functions? What was kind of the mix? And what would you recommend to a
hmm.
company that is planning to open a tech hub in Portugal?
So we used external partners for recruitment, and we used after when we were big enough, we created an internal recruitment team because we had very special standards for recruitment. It was more because I talked about the three tech units, and Maria, she made a question here what I would change. Maria, I wouldn't start
I
three
was going
tech
to
units
put that to you.
with total different policies. I would make it that, but we come back to that later. So um, whenever we fall in that, like recruitment from outside. The thing is, if you just recruit from one country, you can create a specialist in your company that just takes care of Brazilians, for instance. But you're not just recruiting one country. You recruit people from we from 30 countries, so it's much easier to go with service provider who is a specialist in that. They know what to do, they know the laws, they know the papers that need, and you don't have to waste every time 2-3 weeks to that somebody digs in it and then it's for one person. Sorry, that's not worth the investment. Very honest and blank. I'm a financial controller from background, so it's not worth the investment. Invest in things that are really worth it, and they should take away headaches from you. So get trusted partners for this specialized work. Just as the ones that created Tech Hub in Portugal, the companies, they want to have qualified workers to produce code and solve problems. So that you can focus on that. It's important that somebody in your team takes care of these other parts to manage them. Obviously, it takes management as well. You cannot just say, come on, do it and let's go of it. That's an error that some companies do. That takes as well effort to manage them, to give them briefings, what you want, especially if you want that your standards of hiring and recruitment are put out there as well. You have to be a little bit on top of them. Otherwise, they forget it sometimes. Um, but then use specialists for it. Because the time you waste or the errors you can make, if you get a
So
foreigner in and then he doesn't have the right social security number or he
yeah,
doesn't get legalized.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what we did a recruitment package for people that we hired outside, gave them a little bit startup money. We put them up 2 months in a hotel that they can find a space in Portugal, because finding it from Egypt in internet, come on, you don't even know where you want to live. And we paid them for the first year basically the tax support. Because after we didn't do that from the beginning, but after the first hirings abroad, we had some people coming up and say, "Oh, I have problems with the tax authorities." Do you want to have your good programs that you pay a lot of money of it, struggling with Portuguese tax authorities and perhaps with their home tax authorities as well, and going constantly to they're trying with English to getting further? No. So
Yeah,
it's cheaper, it's an opportunity cost, getting a tax advisor for them that the first year, and we just did that for the first year when it's half year in their country, half year here, or 3 to 9 months, whatever, that they don't get into legal battles.
cool.
So we took
Yeah,
that headache away from them.
yeah, yeah. No, no. That's I think again, and that's the best way to use partners. It's non-core. You want to just get output, technological
Exactly.
output. Cool. So, Mark, thanks. We are finished with our script. Even go went over it. Let's try to change a bit our perspective now to the questions. And I'd say that we should start with that question that you indicated, Maria made, about what you would have done differently about the PT Volkswagen Hub. If well,
Yeah.
if you knew back then what you know now, the old question, right?
So when I started the project, I knew nothing about IT. And it's strange what some people from IT from the headquarters ask us to do. I would say nowadays these guys don't understand anything from IT. One thing is we started 3 tax units completely working pretty much independent because that's what the client wanted. That was the decision makers said this is going to happen. And after 1 year, we were faced with 3 different recruitment processes. Then came the problem they wanted to pay different salaries for the same positions in the different tech units. And what we always said, equal work, equal pay in different race or sex, but as well which tech unit. It should be the same. So after 1 year, we started with a lot of work to creating uniformed recruitment process and other processes. And that took 1 to 2 years to get it all done and proven, and that the people started as well trusting the recruitment teams. That's when we did the insourcing of recruitment, because the techies said all, oh, we do the recruitment different, so I need to be involved. They all wanted the same, but they always thought that they found
Yeah, it's always the same thing.
the egg
It's
of
no,
Columbus.
my business system. It's different from yours,
Exactly.
right?
And I said I worked after before for service providing for a plant. I said, come on, in Auto Europa, they are more. It's a plant that makes cars, and the quality and logistics and paint, they are more in line than you guys, and you all do IT. But you all think you do something totally different. No, you do IT at the end of the day, so it's the same. So let's break some lines of decisions which are not used to stream. We could recruit when we wanted below a month, and sometimes it took 3 months because somebody created a process to ask another
Yeah,
20 questions, and they just wanted that's as well. You need to see what you do. They wanted to have the 100% fit. That works in the C team. Yes, they should fit 100% to your company, but if you want to grow and grow fast, you have to accept an 80% fit. That 22 people out of 10 that you hire, you after 6 months say, guys, it's not working.
yeah.
In that tech
It's
unit, we
not all
then
unicorns, right?
yeah, and then we had the chance. We had 2 other tech units. So some people that were refused in one tech unit, they actually fit in the other ones. But to get this all working when you don't have the company at one place, one physical place, but split out over three offices in Lisbon, that was very challenging. And that's probably what I would change a little bit. And
So
the last part I would change, we did the typical error. We started with way too less staff.
to less
IT
staff.
less staff. IT is very intense on taking care of the people. They are, I don't want to offend somebody, but they are sometimes a little bit spoiled. And if you don't spoil them, they don't stay. So, but if you want to spoil them, it means you need to have enough staff to
Yeah,
actually take care of stuff. And it goes again, is it more worth to have a lot of money spent on an IT guy and he has to take care of office stuff? Or is it cheaper to get an office staff that earns way less and he takes care of all the problems they have, that there's no toilet paper, for instance, if you have
yeah,
your own
yeah,
office,
yeah,
all this stuff, taking care of paint, taking care of bad smell, whatever that can happen. Or you have your IT ops or your COO running around and taking care of that. And this were the errors we did in the beginning.
yeah. So integrate and keep it simple in terms of everything, right? And the
Yeah.
second is take care of the babies. That's cool. So another question from Alan Borges. Uh, how are you considering non-German entry-level professionals? And if so, do you have had a talent journey program to enhance their skills? So non-German entry-level professionals.
Well, I assume it's probably a university and school. What is considered, I think IT in that case is very special. At Volkswagen, you have a problem. If you want to get higher manager, you have to have a university degree. They're working on abolishing that since years. But the fact is, especially in the IT area, you find a lot of good people that hadn't finished university.
Yeah. Do you
Um,
have that problem in Portugal? So you only accept people with college
Now,
degrees?
we accept other people as well. What we tried then afterwards to help them to finish their college degree for their
Okay.
future. Okay, so we give them time and opportunities to finish, be it their undergraduate or even masters, because it as well is good for the company to have, let's say a little bit sounds a little bit wrong, but let's have pedigrees. Even if you want to get government funding, if you use financial projects in Portugal that help you reduce your cost for R&D in IT, if you have people with degrees, you get money back. If they don't have a degree, it's difficult. They are not considered. So from that case, yes, but coming back, we created after 2 years a junior academy to get people on board as well, juniors to create them. And then we did a lot of reskilling. Be it, like I said in the beginning, the Portuguese come with a very good lack of understanding what is programming, and they are very open to learn new languages. So we, for instance, gave to every employee access to Udemy to do whatever he wants, but as well for professional training. And as well, other people, we said, Pedro, we want you in this project, you're good. And Pedro said, but I don't know Java. But guys, give me 3 months, and then we helped him to get up to speed.
Okay.
We had a quite good, and I see it as investment. It's not a cost. Okay, there's a legal training cost in Portugal that you have to consider.
Yes, which
But
is
we went
mandatory.
way, yeah. But which is for an IT guy, it doesn't even cover one course. So we did heavy investments in education of our people because that reflects right away in your output. So we sent people to the major conferences, to Holland, to Las Vegas for SAP. Obviously not 20. We took 1 or 2, and then we did the multiplying within the company of the know-how they brought with, okay, the team will not work now for 1 or 2 hours, and they will present what they learned in this training session when they went there, and what's the news on SuccessFactor, and what's the new on S4HANA or whatever other language is there. But it's something as well those people strive for, and which they like in the companies, and if the companies have a skilling program and training budgets.
And I would bet that also increases their loyalty, right? So
yeah,
in the end, okay. Let's go over 2 more questions because we are over time. It's a very interesting conversation. I'm sure that we would like everyone to continue this. I have Jose here asking how important are tax incentives for non-residents to attract international talent. And I would say here, because we were talking about people from countries outside Europe, but a lot of times what we are seeing is, for example, in the case of some German companies, for example, coming to open tech hubs in Portugal, is people in Germany wanting to come to Portugal to live because, well, I don't know, sun, etc., etc. Do you see this happening, and how do you see the current context in terms of incentives for these people that come to live and work in Portugal are in terms of their attractiveness for this phenomenon to take place?
It depends which country they come from. If they come from Egypt, it's not so important for them. Or Iran. If they come from Brazil, it is already, because an IT person in Brazil already earns more than a decent salary for Brazil standards. And then definitely, especially, we have to consider which people you want to bring in for your company if you have the extra cost of bringing somebody from outside. I mean, you don't want to bring juniors, way too expensive. So you want to bring people with experience. And we all know that these government incentives normally are worse when you pay a higher tax rate. So for an expert or a senior, if you can reduce your 45% tax rate to 20 for the next 10 years, it's a really great incentive, because even in their country, they will pay more than 20%. So it was definitely a big part on attracting international talent and make it worthwhile for them to come back here. And now, since the new government introduced again the non-habitual residence project, I think it will pick up again, because the last 1.5 years it came down when the old government basically shut it down. And now with the new one, and even with the new tax thing, and like I said, soft landing, I think will do something for young people. There's now a new tax incentive, but I'm not familiar with all the details yet. It just came out the last couple of times.
Recently.
It could be interesting as well for younger people under 35 to take advantage of that, if a foreigner can take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, we keep seeing a stream of people coming from other countries, and for example, the US is growing very well, let's say, in par with the tourism rates of people coming from the US to Portugal. The number of people that really have moved to Portugal, a lot of them with their families, like you've said, not younger people, but people that already have a context, a familiar context sometimes. And it's very interesting because they say that these, 20% flat rate for people that come from outside, it's a great thing. Well, last question. I'm going from Maria, and this is interesting because, again, we get back to the beginning of our conversation regarding the competition for basically tech hubs should be created in different countries. How do you think that Portugal can compete with other emerging tech hubs? And we know that Spain is always a contender, but Poland, for example, and even some countries more near the Balkans. How do you see that Portugal can, and what do you think that Portugal should do in terms of keeping or being even more competitive than it currently is for this kind of operations?
I think the tax incentives are interesting. The R&D parts that are already in place, they help. Not everybody uses it.
Yeah.
Um, Against other tech, I think Spain has some valid points, but they are very specific in the technologies they are good in.
Really?
Yes. The biggest part that I think that the Portuguese anyway have above the Spain, we are culturally much more open and we have a great English level.
Mark, you said we.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here since 26 years, so I'm more
Yeah.
time in Portugal than I was in Germany. I'm nowadays in the Portuguese economy, in Portugal, and
Yeah.
Portuguese already a bit. So I think that is definitely a big part over Spain. I think, like I said very early in the meeting, the Portuguese have a very good welcoming of people, as well culturally. They are open to speak English. So the contrary we see in Spain, France, and German, it's always a little bit a problem with the language. The headquarters changing, and I think the German company especially made a huge step forward in that being open, that it actually can be English. But not offending anybody, we had as well IT in Spain, and it's difficult to have a conversation in English with a lot of the colleagues there.
Yes.
Um, I think everybody has a valid point to be there and in the market, but I think really the possibilities in Portugal as well to attract talent, the Portuguese market to throw out good, excellent talent in IT and engineering, it's really good, and the country is really investing in that. They're investing now in fixing the young people here, that they can have a career in Portugal, um, and I think safety. I mean, Portugal is a very safe country. Of course, we have criminality, and at the moment there's going on a lot of here because there were some incidents. But every country has still like this. Portugal is a very uh, safe country, a great country to live in with good food and ambient and for people to be around. So I think it's as well a nice place to be because it's not about all about work nowadays, right? It's about work-life balance, and I think it's an interesting country for that, with everything that it has to offer. I can't talk about all the other countries because I haven't been there. It
Of course.
wouldn't be fair for that. But I think as well for the cost and quality, um, Portugal in a lot of ways beats the Eastern European countries.
Okay. Okay, Mark. Thank you. I didn't pay Mark to say this, okay? So please don't
You
give me
don't
now.
need to. You don't need to.
No, but it's always good to hear about this, but we also like to hear some things like how should we and can we improve? That there's always some much more interest in that in terms of future than the things that we know that are already good. But either way, Mark, thank you very much for your presence. It has been a great conversation. I hope that you there at your houses and your works, the audience has also enjoyed it. Um, well, we are here to help you in any way we can regarding building tech hubs in Portugal. Soft Landing does all these things that we have been talking about, but it's not a commercial webinar. But if you need any kind of question answered, please just drop us an email. Connect with me in LinkedIn if you want. I can also try to help you in any way that also I can. And thanks a lot for being here with us. I really appreciate your presence, and I look forward for you to participate in other future events and webinars by Soft Landing. Thank you. Have a great day.
Pedro, thank you very much for the invitation. And thank you everybody for listening.